Don't forget, the next video after this part has already been made and is live now on my Patreon for you to see straight after you've watched this. Fully voice acted, soundtracks, and with my signature editing up for early access to the incredible 3,300 plus patrons who support my work from just $3 with more and more access at higher tiers. This has long been requested to have the full next video early available to you guys who just can't wait for what happens next on Ultra Vegito. And now it's finally here. Links are in the pinned comment and description. Head there after the video. So our story continues with Vegito in his Ultra Kaioken form, the combination of Ultra Instinct and Kaioken, slathered in his aura, floating in the sky, still above Gaiba. But as we stare deeper into his face and eyes, a cold and unflinching look stares back at the Mystery Universe 12 warrior, as Vegito lets out, "So what now? Are you just going to stand there grunting? Or are you going to yell some more and give me a challenge, kid?" But Gaiba, still under the mind control of Ghibli, just continues to angrily grumble, believing still that Vegito was the one who murdered his family, letting out, "You will pay!" But meanwhile, Giin, who has now somewhat calmed himself after seeing Vegito's strange new look, just wonders, This is not how I envisioned things going. Of course this Saiyan would surprise us in some way, but what is this? He looks stronger here than in his Super Saiyan form. Ultra Instinct is one thing, but what in Universe 12 is that red aura around him? Kaioken, did he say? Just what kind of Kai would teach the God Killer such a technique? Treacherous scum. But knowing this battle is still far from over, anger takes over Giin once more as he turns quickly to the wizard and yells, "Ghibli, no more games! As expected, this God Killer had a trump card of his own. So now, we must reveal ours. Amplify the seal's effect on Gaiba. Send him into a complete rage." To which, of course, the nervous and fearful for his life, Ghibli would just respond, "Yes, my lord. I'll do everything in my power." Before instantly yelling once again, waving his hands as yet another wave of mysterious magic surrounds the young man. And of course, as the magic does once again hit Gaiba, he is frozen still as slowly but surely his entire mind becomes polluted with rage and hatred. The pain of the army of thoughts swarming his brain instantly caused Gaiba to squirm in pain as he grabs his temple with both hands, just hoping to calm things down. But Ghibli, on the other end, unfortunately, isn't even close to finishing. Meanwhile though, watching all of this take place with a bemused face, Vegito is slightly confused at what's happening as he comments, "What the hell is that wrinkled bag doing to him? Is he hurting him or helping him? That Bobbity clone just seems to be making that kid go crazy. It's like torture. But why?" But as Vegito contemplates, Gaiba's screams reach their breaking point as his whole body now begins to mysteriously transform, as the G symbol on his forehead begins to glow molten orange, and his hair grows and spikes up completely as if becoming a Super Saiyan himself, until suddenly, out of nowhere, the previously unassuming emerald medallion on the neck of the young Universe 12 fighter suddenly breaks from the overwhelming power of. And as if taking precedence even over Ghibli's magic and mind control, instantly as the medallion breaks, the pupils of Gaiba's face disappear, and he goes silent for a few moments until... From the confines of the broken gem, beams of energy shoot off in all directions, as it seems the chain was more of a restraint than just a piece of jewelry, as Gaiba's screams become even more blood-curdling. And suddenly, his pupils then begin to reappear, his body and face now covered in veins as his stature prepares to undergo what seems like even more of a transformation without break. As if there is nothing left now to hold back whatever this monster Gaiba is, Gaiba lives up to his name as his hair extends rapidly while sharpening and hardening at the same time. And from his previously bandaged up left arm, a monstrous and muscular limb grows forth as his entire body grows in tandem. And so too does his foot, which now resembles more of a beast than a humanoid mortal. And suddenly, as the dust settles, and in one of the most sudden and rapid transformations in DB history, the true final form of Gaiba is seen. Now the size of an Uzaru, overflowing with power, and near unrecognizable in this beastly state. What? Of course, completely blindsiding the God Killer, as Vegito just stands wholly unable to even explain what had just happened. As he continues to look in complete shock and awe, and not only the beastly new form of the boy, but also the power emanating from him, he then thinks, what the hell? What's happened to him now? How is he able to transform while I can't? Is that one of the wizard's rules? Either way, that scrotum is going too far with this kid. I can sense his life force failing. There's no way his body can take much more of this. You hear me, wizard? But simultaneously, honestly not giving a damn, the power-drunk Giin just laughs maniacally, before screaming even more orders. Yes, Ghibli, keep this up and your planet will be spared, just as I promised. Keep unleashing young Gaiba's wrath. Make him relive his clan's slaughter, his father's death by Vegito's hand. His rage is infinite, and so too will the power the seal extracts. Push him until he grows to the size of this entire galaxy! Huh? But mid-sentence, before he could say anything else too crazy, his voice completely vanishes, as to the side of him, a sight appears that would be the last thing he would have ever expected. As suddenly, right in front of the wizard Ghibli, Ultra Kaioken Vegito appears, much to the surprise, of course, to the wizard. What? What are you doing here? The Destroyer and Angel, they're over there! But the totally cold-faced Vegito, looking down with the same look he once had for the gods, lets out emotionlessly, "You, wizard, I don't know what you and this Destroyer's deal with this poor kid is, but you don't give a damn what happens to him, do you? Whether he dies by my hand or defeats me, he's nothing but a pawn to you, isn't he? Just like your gods, you treat us mortals like mere playthings to use and discard. And for that, you will now die as a god too." No! Leaving the wizard to quickly panic and mutter out nonsense as Vegito lifts up his arm ominously. Vegito, though, not breaking character, just says back mercifully, "Any final words, Scrotum?" Yes, please stop, I could be of hakai! But in a planned scene, dashing the hopes of the wizard before he could even finish his plea, Vegito yells out the call of the destroyer. And as a result, in a flash, Ghibli becomes no more, speedily eroded away on the spot into complete nothingness. What? No! As finally, the two divine creatures react in terror to the sudden loss of their somewhat key player in the battle, but not one to remain still. Immediately, without saying another word to each other, both Giin and Martinu then appear in front of Vegito, confronting him head-on as Giin grunts, "You damned Saiyan! How dare you! We wanted to finish you off after gaiba, but now's a better time than ever, isn't it, Martinu?" To which the severely unimpressed angel attendant would respond, "Yes, let us spare young gaiba the hassle. This will be for my brothers and sisters." As immediately both Angel and Destroyer together join forces and both rush in, attempting to stop the God Killer. But of course, Vegito being Vegito, in his newfound form, vanishes with speed right before either god makes contact. Where the hell did he go now? Be on guard, Martinu. As suddenly, what started as a simple curiosity over where Vegito had escaped to, turns to a full-blown shock to the angel in particular as... Suddenly, from behind the angel, Martinu is gripped in a perfectly executed and tight chokehold by the God Killer, as the struggling angel just mutters out, "Unhand me! How did you even get by undetected?" Dropping his angel staff as he tries fruitlessly to loosen Vegito's grip, not knowing the more he struggled, the tighter it would get. Vegito, though, now with one of the most demonic smirks of the series, would reply, "Calm down, Angel. With the size of you, you don't want to be moving around too much. Might make a mistake and burn a calorie or two from the exercise. And you wouldn't want that, would you? Just stay still. I'll have you skinny a much easier way. Call it my version of liposuction." What are you saying, God Killer? Leaving the angel with a mixture of anger and anxiety over what just Vegito's next move could be. But of course, once he finds out, he soon wishes he never did, as out of Vegito's left arm, his cell tail bursts forth, as Vegito says under his hushed breath, "Now, stay still for me, will you?" And within a nanosecond, the cell tail moves after its latest meal, in a less brutal fashion than we're used to, but this time directly into the belly of the big-boned angel. Immediately beginning its suction as the shape of the tail distorts as energy travels through it until... What are you doing? As mid-absorption, Vegito's earlier words are proven right, with Martinu, just before death, appearing far younger and skinnier than before, almost looking like a cross between the Grand Priest and Whis as he dramatically loses weight. Martinu! Meanwhile though, Giin, who watches on as his master and all-powerful angel attendant gets disposed of so easily, is nothing short of gobsmacked, unable to say much more until... jumping back as if on instinct from detecting such a grave danger, putting some distance between himself and the God Killer, before pulling his arms back and saying finally, "There's no use. This mortal, this monster, can't be stopped by just normal means. I have to do it, and do it now! Hakai!" As in a complete shock turn, Giin unleashes his own hakai, in the form of an all-powerful blast of energy that is far-reaching, erasing anything and everything it touches, and of course, most notably, aimed at his own angel. But from behind, we see the blast is far from nothing, with just the base being larger than his own body as black lightning begins to coat the god. And from above, we see just how truly gigantic the blast is too, with Martinu and presumably Vegito most definitely caught up in it and erased to nothing. In the aftermath, these thoughts are confirmed, as before Giin, in the dissipating smoke, nothing but scorched particles remain. Something was definitely erased, and Giin too knew it. As when we look back at the exhausted god, he bears no doubt on his face, but only a sense of sorrow as he lets out, "I'm sorry, Martinu. I had no choice. With him wrapped up with you, I had to get rid of both of you while he was still absorbing you. In the end, his lust for power, your sacrifice, is what killed him, my friend. So be proud. You will always be remembered." "Will you remember me too, fish face?" "What?" But of course, things could never be that simple with the God Killer, as from behind the frightened god, a dark silhouette appears, and of course, a familiar voice rings. "No!" As when the scene zooms out and Giin eventually turns his head around, Ultra Vegito, of course, in classic style, stands motionless right behind him, his aura still surrounding him after presumably using his super speed to escape just in time. With the two now face to face with one another, God Killer and his so-called victim, Vegito then lets out cockily, "How heartless of you to erase your own angel, Giin, and annoying too. That was supposed to be my pleasure. But oh well. I'll still get the chance of wiping you from existence, and that will be more than satisfying. I'll do you a favor and save that till the end though. After all, I want you to witness firsthand the defeat of your little lapdog. Pumped with steroids and magic or not, he will be disposed of quickly. And then I'll come for you." To which the angrily looking god would just whisper back, "And what makes you so confident that plan will go as you say, God Killer?" But in response, Vegito just extends his Godslayer blade, and with a sinister smile responds, "You know what? You've actually got a point for once, Giin. So in that case..." As without warning, Vegito aims downward and begins slicing in all directions with near undetectable speed and precision, with Giin and us manga readers only able to see after images in its wake. Eventually revealing to us the shocking result of slicing both of Jin's legs just under his kneecaps, as the completely unsuspecting destroyer can only look on, unable to even react to the pain yet due to the shock and adrenaline. Looking down, he eventually can only yell, You! What have you done? How are you doing this? As finally the pain sets in and Jin's entire body separates from his severed limbs, sending his body flying face first towards the ground as blood splatters and pours out from his still stood feet. Eventually plummeting to the ground with a thud. As if one eye open, he then grunts, looking at his attacker in jest, grumbling, This is not over! As with the strength he retains in his arms, Jin pushes his torso up with his upper body alone, shouting venomously, You think that's enough to stop me? All I need is one opening, and I'll erase you forever! But just as Jin's threats build and his confidence grows slightly, instantly, his throat is struck by a familiar beam of energy. Immediately creating an energy collar right around the god's neck, pinning his head back against the ground, much to the destroyer's alarm. And with his head now trapped and completely immobilized, Jin yells, Damn you! If you think this will keep me down, then you're sadly mistaken! But Vegito, not worried in the slightest, would just look back scarily saying, You can try, Destroyer, but you'd need to cut off your own head to do that. I'd suggest you just stay down and enjoy the show. Your time will come, but for now, I better fix this monster you created. And with that said, Vegito then shifts his face back to serious, as he turns his head to the all-powerful creature before him, thinking in his head, At least with killing that wizard, this kid's power has stopped rising. But his energy is still ridiculous as it is. His body won't be able to maintain this for much longer. I need to stop him now, if he's going to survive. And when we zoom out, as Vegito watches from the strange mountaintop, the giant gaiba is seen in the distance, still grabbing his head in pain, but at least not yelling anymore. But soon enough, the beast makes eye contact with Vegito once again, still covering his forehead but groaning, My family, you'll pay! Surprising Vegito as he looks on obliviously wondering, Pay? Pay for what? I've killed that Ghibli character who was controlling you. You should be free now, right? But as Vegito questions Gaiba, the monster begins slowly removing his hands until... revealing still on his forehead is the G symbol and seal Ghibli had placed earlier, meaning even after death, his magic and brainwashing lives on within Gaiba. Immediately, as if in testament to that fact, Gaiba then begins powering up once more, this time now to what seems his full power, surrounding the massive beast in a dark pink aura with red lightning storming all around. And just as before, he quickly then dulls his screams, closing his mouth shut once again as his cheeks bulge larger and larger until... Instantly, the giant blasts forth an even more giant wave of energy, one with infinitely more power than the last, and immediately the sheer size is apparent to Vegito as it rushes right before his face. With his eyes opening wider and wider as it approaches, Vegito's forced to think fast. No! What? What the hell am I supposed to do with that? That's too big to even risk absorbing! Quickly pulling his body into stance as he says, "This is hardly fair, but if you want to play like that, then I guess I'll need to push kaioken to its limit for you!" As Vegito quickly then places his hands and legs into an iconic Saiyan position and begins powering up immediately, as a strange, almost electricity-like aura begins surrounding him until... Garlic Gun! With his whole body becoming one with the energy wave, Vegito blasts forward the Saiyan Prince's signature attack with full power towards Gaiba's beam. The end result, of course, being a cataclysmic collision of two unstoppable powers. And despite the differences from the right angles, the two actually still look to be on almost even ground, as the entire planet and universe itself quakes under the pressure of the beams trading. You're not beating me, kid! And despite the overwhelming number of disadvantages facing him, still in base form using the power of kaioken alone, Vegito continues his struggle, pushing against Gaiba's oversized attack. But soon, as we look from above, the true direction of where the battle is going becomes clear, as Gaiba's beam destructively pushes back the Godkiller's blast, reaching closer and closer to the Saiyan. He's beating me back! Eventually being realized by Vegito himself as he begins to panic, thinking, so I still don't have enough strength even with kaioken! Ridiculous! Who is this kid? Guess I'm going to have to push things even further. But this is going to hurt. Kaioken times 20! As Vegito bulks his body up even further than before, his skin now becoming even more tinged with red as his red aura expands monstrously like a lit flame. And with his times 20 increased power, the Godkiller's blast shoots out a bulge more of energy that travels fast to strike against Gaiba's. And almost instantly, the tables are entirely turned as the beam now becomes noticeably closer to Gaiba, ready to impact him and end the battle. But as Gaiba pointlessly battles back, Vegito, knowing his own strength, just begins to smile knowing the outcome, as he thinks, sorry kid, but no matter how much juice that Bobbity clone gave you, you're no match for me. But as Vegito continues to finish off Gaiba with his ever-reaching closer ki beam, suddenly, a shadow begins to cover him from above and the surrounding areas. What? You've got to be kidding me! As promptly, Vegito's eyes meet with what is above him, and it is far from what he or us could have ever expected. Gaiba! As eventually, as we look from below Vegito, high up in the air is the silhouette of none other than the giant beast Gaiba, who some way somehow transported himself mid-beam all the way up there, rapidly falling down until... with no chance to escape, the giant beast lands with a monstrous crash, straight on the head of the defenseless Vegito, causing the very planet to shudder and move through space from the impact as rocks and debris fly everywhere. But all the while, watching from the side of his eye, still pinned down by Vegito's energy collar, Giin begins to smile as he confidently remarks, "Yes, gaiba, that's the way. Don't let Ghibli's efforts of you go to waste. You're the true strongest in the multiverse. Without his transformations, that Saiyan is no different to any other." And with that said, as the scene moves back to Gaiba, he just remains sat still, pleased too that he has now apparently flattened his family's killer and avenged them all. As he lets out, "I told you, I'll grind you to dust for what you did." But without warning, Gaiba's confident tune changes rapidly as his body begins to vibrate uncontrollably, and curiously, also begins to move upwards. And as we zoom out from the scene, unbelievably from below Gaiba, something or someone raises the unfathomably heavy monster. "Get off, you sack of blood!" With this person, of course, being the seemingly indestructible Vegito, pushing back with all his might as his muscles tense and bulge. And slow and steadily, the God Killer gets himself onto one knee, lifting not only his own body off the ground, but the bottom of the giant gaiba too, to the point it looks like the Titan is floating. But once fully standing, with a look of pure conviction in his eyes, Vegito would then yell, "Alright, enough of this! If I can't become a Super Saiyan, then I'll go even further without it! Kaioken times 100! Incredibly, Vegeta pushes the ability of Kaioken to its utmost limits, roaring to the heavens as now topless, his body and physiology increases in mass to unhealthy levels, while his skin, hair and eyes all become near blood red. Begun! As Vegito in one massive chuck tosses the Uzaru-sized kaiju straight into the air with so much strength, the Titan travels at rapid speed. Within seconds, just appearing like an ant in the sky before the now outstretched arms of Vegito on the ground. But with the massively overpumped arms of Vegito, the cost isn't free, as Vegito grunts, "It's going to hurt in the morning. My muscles are tearing up already." But knowing this battle can't go on any longer, he quickly then readies himself into position, bringing his arms down as he thinks internally, "If I don't end this soon, not only could I run out of energy and set that damn destroyer free, but this silly kaioken might wreck my entire body beyond recognition. Sorry, kid, but I'm going to have to finish this now, whether you die or not." As immediately, in his super-powered red state, Vegito rushes in at full speed straight forward towards Gaiba, and mysteriously as he approaches, a visual representation of a crimson red dragon roars with ferocity before him until Ultra Dragon Fist! As Vegito, with his fist outstretched completely, launches the legendary finishing move of Goku for the first time. As the Crimson Dragon he creates as he does so roars in tandem. both flying with unimaginable speed and ferocity, aimed at one still mid-flight target. And like a wrecking ball, Vegito with his all-powerful fist shoots through the body of Gaiba clean, straight through his torso and out the other end, as the stunned monster just remains completely paralyzed in the middle of the attack. His pupils now missing, having been either knocked unconscious or on the footsteps of death, as his giant body, leaking blood from the gaping hole in his stomach, falls back down to the ground. Slamming down with a thud, still groaning and meaning he's still alive. Almost instinctively though, from the pain, despite so close to losing his consciousness, Gaiba grips with both hands the vicious injury on his stomach, hoping to stem the bleeding as he lets out, "No, this can't end like this. Please, Father, give me strength." But as Gaiba continues to grimace wildly from the pain, nearby the miniature-looking god killer lands down below with a small thud, his body still pumped up and overflowing with kaioken amplification. Damn it, no! As Gaiba, turning his head and of course noticing this, is far from pleased, groaning louder and louder as Vegito gets closer, knowing his upcoming fate. You pig! You took everything from me! As soon as Vegito raises up his arm to Gaiba, the monstrous giant panics, yelling with rage at the man he still believes destroyed his life. Vegito though, now almost done with reasoning with the warrior, just looks on coldly and says, "Looks like the brainwashing these freaks have done to you has traveled deep, my friend. I'd have hoped I would have beat some sense into you by now, but that wizard's magic seems to still be affecting you. I'm sorry, kid, but now you leave me no choice. I'll end your pain here and now." As sharply following this, a moderately sized ball of energy then forms in the hand of Vegito, aimed straight at the forehead of Gaiba, ready to blast through his brain and end his life painlessly and quickly. You demon! Causing Gaiba in his final breath to yell out obscenities, hoping in the fruitless attempt it would do anything. But Vegito, just angered, would then yell back, "If only you had figured out I was never the bad guy here!" As Vegito seemingly then powers the ball of energy even further to shoot through with vigor. But once we actually see what is going on, though the large ball of energy remains within the palm of Vegito's hand, instead of attacking, what seems like energy straight from the forehead of the kaiju beast travels straight from Gaiba and into the ball, as if absorbing it for himself. And suddenly, as what seemed like energy absorption stops abruptly, the monstrous Gaiba is then seen still alive, but notably now with the G symbol on his forehead completely gone. Confused, the beast can only briefly comment, You... Giin? Before just as violently as when his body grew several times in size, so too does Gaiba's body change once again, reverting back in size to his normal stature, while his facial features change back too. In the aftermath, leaving Gaiba now on his back once again, but back to being a young child, with a more mortal-like appearance, still groaning, but feeling more confused than anything at this point. Immediately though, as if a new consciousness had awakened inside of him, a look of trepidation comes across his face instantly, as he looks to his left and yells out, "What? Where am I? Where's my father's killer? Where's that monster? Giin!" But stopping the young fellow in his tracks, Vegito's voice then answers calmly, "Relax, kid. It seems you've come back to your senses, but there's no need to freak out. You were put under a spell to attack me. The spell, magic or not, had to be some sort of energy controlling you. So I used a technique of mine known as spirit fission to remove it and separate it from your own. You don't need to worry anymore. Giin is already nearly dead. He's behind me, trapped on the ground and helpless." "Really?" Gaiba instinctively gets up, raising his upper body, totally shocked at the stranger's words, inquiring, You were able to do that to a destroyer? That means you must have gone past his angel too. Who are you? Please, don't kill him yet. Let me avenge them. Let me be the one to avenge my family." But as Gaiba's words yell loudly with credence, a sudden sharp pain afflicts him, of course, from his earlier still serious injury, causing him to unceremoniously then revert back to slamming his backside on the ground with a loud thud. Vegito, of course, seeing this, like us, can't help but be amused, as he looks down with a smirk and says, "So that's what this is all about. Me and you, we're on the same boat. He's responsible for my family's death too, you know. But I tell you what, if you can survive that injury long enough to let me figure out a way to heal you, then I'll let you do the honors, kid." This comment bringing finally a smile to Gaiba's face, even in his injured state, as somehow, now feeling at ease and trusting of Vegito, he replies, "Thank you. You got yourself a deal, mister." And with the agreement made, Vegito extends his hand with a smile to Gaiba, and unbelievably, maybe sensing the kind-hearted Goku side within the God Killer, Gaiba also reaches his hand out too, believing that together they could avenge both their families. In a solemn and beautiful scene, with a backdrop of a sunset, their two hands reach within touching distance of each other until... Back on the ground, still immobilized, Giin looks on with a look of pure disgust, as he lets out coldly and oddly with a tone of calm, "Damn mortals. Can't rely on them for anything, can you, Martinu? Gaiba, you were a failure. You could have never been this universe's god of destruction. That damn oracle fish was a fraud, like I had always suspected. And now, because of both of you, all of us will die here and disappear forever. I hope you're happy." And with that inexplicable foreshadowing said, the god just closes his eyes and in his final moments thinks back to his fellow gods. "Doesn't look like I'll be bringing you back after all, Martinu. I just hope the other three left pay me back one day for solving this problem once and for all. Especially you, Arak. You owe me big time." And out of nowhere, with his final words seemingly said now, the old destroyer begins to grin and laugh until... Hakai! With a thunderous yell that must be using everything he has left within him, With his palms facing towards the ground, he lets out the most destructive phrase in the multiverse. And as we zoom all the way out into the depths of space, what was once a peaceful view of the mysterious planet they were on soon begins to disappear and erase at scale and speed back into particles. And on the very surface of the planet, this becomes even more clear as entire mountains vanish before the eyes of everyone. This of course being noticed by Vegito quickly, as he observes his surroundings change, and for a moment he remains calm, letting out, "What's this now? Are we changing planet again? But I thought I got rid of that wizard." What? But shock and fear soon come to Vegito's face once he turns back around to Gaiba and their handshake, and suddenly... My hand! Right before the God Killer's eyes, the fingers of his hand begin to vanish, along with the hand of Gaiba too. No, he didn't! Until only moments later, Vegito's entire arm also vanishes, and he finally realizes just the dastardly and cowardly move the so-called God had pulled off. Goodbye, God Killer. If I die, it will never be by your hand. As just before Jin's entire body vanishes, he spouts one last taunting line to the soon-to-be erased also, Saiyan. No! 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 Jin, you coward! As with one final scream, the God Killer yells out, unable to do anything, as the last of his body turns to dust before his eyes, along with his newfound friend and ally, Gaiba. And just like that, from one panel to the next, the entire massive planet the trio were on then also reciprocates, reverting back to the atoms from which it came from, and thus ending the battle of Jin versus Vegito, and ending the story of the God Killer. But a short while later, we see Jin wake up, but seemingly not in the area where the planet had been. With a confused face, he looks around and sees total nothingness, just a plain blank white canvas surrounding him in all directions. In an almost accepting tone though, he soon realizes, so, this must be where those who are erased go. I thought nothingness meant that I would cease to exist in any form, but it seems I was wrong. I guess my punishment shall be living in nothingness instead. Before then slowly flying around the endless void, continuing, well, at the very least, I can move around. Who knows, maybe I'll be able to find Martinu somewhere out here. But as Jin moves through slowly, arriving behind him as silent as a mouse, undetected, is a certain pair of damaged feet. And of course, in what is seemingly this strange afterlife for the erased, Ultra Vegito appears regardless, angry in the face as he lets out, "You won't be finding Martinu anywhere here, Destroyer." What? You? If you're here and Martinu isn't, then where the hell are we? Were we not erased? Leaving Jin stunned as he turns around to see the one man he never wanted to see again. To which Vegito, not batting or changing an inch in expression, would then explain, "No, Destroyer, we are not erased. You didn't really think your plan would work, did you? Where we are is somewhere with no end and with nowhere to hide. You will pay for what you just did, Jin. But when you destroyed that planet we were on, Not only did you wipe out all the uninvolved innocents of that planet, but you also attempted to cowardly take out yourself, me, and Gaiba too. In the end, such a move would never be something I could not escape. But before I could, I knew I had to save one of you. And you forced my damn hand to leave Gaiba behind. For the sake of my mission, you forced me to save you. And for that, you will now pay 1,000-fold. Gaiba's revenge will flow through me if it's the last thing I do. As Vegito then instantly transforms into his final form out of nowhere. His hair longer, his left eye blackened with his intense purple aura and black lightning out in all its glory. Enraged now, and with more conviction than ever, the God Killer sets his sight on his latest victim. What? No! How? This power! How can you transform now? Ghibli! Leaving the highly panicked and disorientated God to be left paralyzed in the spot as he begins to mutter nonsense. But Vegito, not caring to sugarcoat things, just responds, "No use in calling after that scrotum now, Destroyer. He's gone, and I already told you this isn't his domain anymore. This is mine. What this is inside the Pyramid of Power." Before beginning slowly to walk towards the planted still God, continuing, "A place I chose specifically for you to awake, and for just a brief moment, think your cowardly tactics had actually worked. It may have been short, but I enjoyed every moment of seeing that change of expression from then till now." Foolish God. Leaving Giin completely stunned and even more fearful at the depths of Vegito's sadistic planning before muttering, No, God Killer, get out of my sight! To which the God Killer, quickly changing his look to one of a sinister smirk, then responds, "Out of my sight, you say? As you wish, my lord." Before rushing in rapidly, closing the distance, with curiously his right hand raised and aiming straight for Jin's face. Before in a shockingly brutal move, Vegito does in fact remove himself from Jin's sight by blinding the god on the spot, sticking 2 fingers in each eye socket with force, bursting the god's eyeballs instantaneously, leaving the destroyer to writhe in pain. But things don't end as Vegito, now beaming his teeth with a smile, continues, "This is what you wanted, right, my lord? You'll never see me again. But in return, now you need to do something for me. And that's give me all of your energy, Giin!" Instantly slamming his left arm onto Jin's shoulder, before rapidly absorbing every ounce of hakai energy straight from the god, as he continues to bleed from his eyes and moan from the unfathomable amount of pain and discomfort he is in. Give me that! But unbelievably, Vegito does not stop, and with his fingers still dug into the very face of the god, he then roughly pulls his hand away, still grabbing onto something, as blood splatters all over. And in a horrific sight, the aftermath is finally then shown of Giin, the once destroyer of Universe 12, now with his entire face ripped off, leaving just a bloody, flesh-stained skull, tortured alive with no energy left and suffering one of the most horrific deaths in Dragon Ball history. Finally then leaving the deceased god to fall to the ground face first, motionless, and finally out of his misery. But as Vegito looks down at his latest victim, a sense of pleasure is not what is seen on his face, as he then lets out, "Even this death is too good for you, Giin. Nothing could ever make up for the countless lives you took over the millennia you've been around. But at the very least, I'll make sure for all of them, including Gaiba, that you never come back. Hakai!" Screaming at the top of his voice, the words which have become more synonymous now with Vegito than the gods themselves. As Jin's body, as expected, vanishes completely and forever. But as Vegito looks down solemnly, only a period of silence can be heard as he thinks about everything that had just happened in Universe 12. Soon enough though, Vegito is then seen curiously rummaging through his back pocket, looking for something, perhaps for any last crumbs of senzu. Until finally, from behind he brings out a familiar broken pendant, the same one Gaiba had been wearing just before he had lost control of his power. Grabbing it tightly with his fist, as if replicating grabbing Gaiba's own hand, Vegito would then let out, "Rest in peace, Gaiba. You too were a victim of these gods. And you can believe me, I will make sure to bring you and your family back one day. Until then, my friend." But as Vegito stands alone with these poignant words said, the scene begins to zoom out. Until oddly, Vegito himself is displayed on a large screen lit in a dim room. A table and 5 chairs sat in front of the view, as if Ultra Vegito was a spectacle to someone. But with a loud slam, a fist smacks onto the brittle table, and as the panel moves up, it is revealed to be none other than the Grand Priest, now with a completely unrecognizable angry scowl, as he says, "That is it. Even Giin. I will not allow for Zeno to ruin everything I built with this game of his. It was amusing at first, but now this Goku and Vegeta have proven troublesome. If Zeno truly desires to see what this Saiyan can really do, we shall see how he fares against a real challenge. The 5 strongest in the multiverse." As right behind the Grand Priest, suddenly, 4 mysterious hooded figures appear, unknown whether to just be in the Daishinkan's mind or actually there too, observing the God Killer. But that was it for today's video, guys, and if you made it this far, leave me a hashtag 5strongest in the comments down below if you need to see how Vegito fares against the 5 strongest and see just who they are. Or you can just find out right now on my Patreon, where you can see the full next video, fully voice acted, soundtracked and edited for you to enjoy with over 3,300 plus other fans, as well as getting access to 250 plus other fan mongers too. It's the deal of the century.